I was going to make fun about Puerto Rico being a colony.
Happy Super Bowl Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody is enjoying their beautiful Sunday. I hope they're getting ready to stay warm. Hopefully, if you're watching this on the West Coast, you getting ready to have a great time and participate in local Super Bowl festivities. Regardless of where you are on the planet watching this, we're coming to you live from the cyberverse, streaming across multiple platforms. So if you are watching, hit that like and subscribe button. We are the Suncoast chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. That's right, Normal, Suncoast Normal, in the house, in the building. Like, comment, share, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. It takes a couple seconds, but it means the world to us to continue to bring you great and amazing guests each and every Sunday here in the rotation. And we have an amazing guest with us today. We're going to jump all right into it. But first, roll that beautiful theme music.
Almost ran the credits.
I saw that, but no, you did it. You saved it.
We are ahead of yourself.
Yeah, we are only professionals Monday through Friday.
You guys gotta understand, I do like 20 things at the same time when the show's going. I'm quiet, but
I think Carlos is just upset. Is so jazzed about the halftime show at the Super Bowl today.
I can't wait to see Bad Bunny.
So you're going to watch the Bad Bunny thing instead of the American halftime show, right?
I stopped enjoying Kid Rock when in like junior year of high school.
I mean, I'm just gonna call it like this. We're really at a point in this country, in America, in the United States of America, where we have to have separate halftime shows, like segregated proms. I mean, that is just that's where we're at. And one of the things that was really poignant to me, which I thought that stood out, was Bad Bunny said English is not his first language, and it's not America's either. So if everybody mad that an American citizen is headlining the Super Bowl and he doesn't necessarily speak English, it's okay. Learn your own history. And I think that's part of so much of our problems in this country is so many folks don't know their own history. And when we look at it, right now it's Black History Month, and so many folks don't understand the history behind that and how it started out as Black History Week. And here we are. It's now the whole month of February. But for much of what we see in the United States behind the ignorance and racism and stoking of fears and fires we have with each other and the divisions we have, it is truly does go back to our education system. And for decades, the price of allowing money to influence so much of what we do in educating our young people, whether it's textbook contracts or standardized testing, or everybody who's got their hands in the honeypot when it comes to spending tax dollars. I mean, I know for the 2000s, there's been charter schools and taking money out of public schools and put them into private hands. And then you see, that there is a miseducation of so many people in the United States. And for a country that has a nuclear arsenal pointed at the rest of the world, that can be dangerous. So what we hope to do, in our mission is to bring a little normalcy and peace to the world through this amazing plant, which nature has given us. And the universe has, helped speak to really the better parts of us through cannabis. And I think that is a good segue in introducing our next guest, because he has been on the ground in his home country of Canada, really as a trailblazer in the cannabis industry. Welcome, Clifton.
How you doing?
All right, brother. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's I know it's pretty cold stretch across the states, but how's the weather in Canada right now?
Well, it's a good balmy -6 right now. Wind chill. I prefer, like I said to you earlier, if it sounds scary in Celsius, like -21, with a wind chill making it -30.
Now, one of the great things about the laws in Canada is that, although you can smoke anywhere where you can smoke cigarettes, and which means you can smoke outside. Now, that means that if you want to smoke anywhere like in Toronto, you actually have to go out in the patio where it's 10 below, as opposed to going inside where it's nice and warm, because that would be illegal in public areas.
Yes and no on that law. Depends on which province you're in.
Oh,
Canadian Cannabis Act allows provinces to regulate and determine what they want for their province. So in Quebec, it's very draconian, totally state controlled. There's very little flexibility as far as what you can do with cannabis. You're not even allowed to show an image of the cannabis leaf in Quebec.
wow.
So it's very restrictive. And the SQDC, which is the state-run Société de Cannabis de Québec, which is the organization run by the government of Quebec, which regulates cannabis. They're the only ones allowed technically to operate cannabis in Quebec. And there's a lot of holes in the law, and they're trying to patch them as they go. But it's a struggle.
So
Well, I grew up in Detroit, which is right across the river from Windsor, which makes Detroit, by the way, the only city of the United States that is north of a Canadian city, because Windsor is actually south of Detroit. But I grew up in Ontario, so I knew all the laws there. I wasn't too familiar as to how different they are in Quebec.
well,
Quebec
same place for me. I just wanted to say, like, seeing street signs in French after you driving through, Ontario, and everything was in English. That was a definitely a culture shock. Clifton, how is that for you, brother? Having multiple languages where you're at, doing business in multiple languages. That's got to be something that a lot of dispensary owners probably in the States wouldn't necessarily comprehend. Not too many places where you got to have those skills.
Well, I don't mind it. It's something I'm used to. I can switch from Kanienkehaka, which is Mohawk, to French to English, and vice versa, without skipping a beat. A lot of my elders, in my mom's generation, were like that. They were trilingual. A lot of people in the city of Montreal are bilingual. So in Montreal, a lot of times you'll find a lot of people what they call speaking English. They're speaking French and English in the same context of what they're speaking about. So one sentence can have one word in French and two words in English, and there's different rules for different things. So it's a very much bilingual city, Montreal. A lot of francophones, more in the rural areas and in Quebec and the rest of the province is almost 100% francophone. But around Montreal, in the Montreal area, you'll find a lot of bilingual communities and a lot of people who speak both French and English.
Very cool, very cool. I mean, even the name of your dispensary, the Green Devil, Le Diable Vert, it's pretty cool, man. I dig the logo.
Yeah, I was just looking at that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and we got our resident IT geek, Katrina Pink, joining us. Katrina helps serve on our board of directors as our community liaison and communications with the streets, and we really appreciate you joining us this morning, Kat.
Thank you. Sorry
By the
for
way,
being late.
Pete is also our champion roller here too. She is a multiple champion of her best blunt in the Bay contest, hands down. Which I think is probably the way that she usually does it too.
And I'm also a judge. I'm judging now. I don't roll anymore. I leave that up to rookies.
But I'm really curious, Clifton, because you started this your business before it was legal in Canada.
Yes.
So you are officially of the legacy market. Now, the fact that you were actually working on sovereign land had make any difference in the way you were able to operate at that time?
Well, the whole point was to exercise that sovereignty. As a Kanienkehaka person, we have never relinquished our sovereignty, in spite of Canada's efforts to oppress that. We fought hard fights to maintain that, and part of that hard fight is doing what we're doing. I like to remain proactive when it comes to my rights to do things within my homeland, and doing things like selling cannabis is one of many other things that we have to exercise those rights for. If we don't exercise those rights, we lose those rights. That's how I feel. So yeah, it was a part of the old legacy market, which is a market actually, to be honest, I miss. I found that there's a spirit that was sucked out of the cannabis industry once legalization kicked in that was there prior. And I don't know what happened, but something happened that really took some of the wind out of the sails. at that point. But being part of that old market really gives me a lot of insight into what needs to be done now, because we have the overlap. I was able to witness and be part of the overlap between the two worlds.
I mean, I had the benefit of getting a chance to meet Prime Minister Campbell. Very interesting lady. I don't know all of her policies, of course, but I found her very wise when it came to putting cannabis on the map in Canada. And that is why, in fact, most of the dispensaries here in the United States had to sell stock on the Canadian Stock Exchange before when they couldn't do it here in order to raise money. So we have been kind of interlaced with the Canadian cannabis market since its very beginning. But I do agree that capitalism did change the whole feeling of the cannabis market, because it became a market and an industry as opposed to something you did between friends, essentially.
Well, I personally like to make fun of the legal industry sometimes, because I found that once the legal industry kicked in, they treated the bud like it was toxic waste. They would put their packaging in a double-walled plastic container with a childproof cap, in a cardboard box covered in cellophane. So what were these stores? Are you selling cannabis, or are you a package store? Are you selling packaging? For me, it was packaging. For what, 3.5 grams? You have what, 8 ounces of packaging? It was absolutely ridiculous. Whereas in the so-called black market or gray market, it was just a little Mylar bag or a Ziploc bag. So that was an issue for me. Also, there was an environmental issue. There's an over-packaging issue. A lot of things that were problematic with that so-called legal industry, and in particular in Quebec, where you're not even allowed to look at the bud. In the SQDCs, you're not allowed to see what you're buying. You're not allowed to smell what you're buying, more importantly. And once you buy it, you leave the store with it. You can't open the package in the store. Once you leave with it, you get it home, and you open up, and you realize that your 7 is actually a 3.5. Try and go get your money back and reimburse. They'll tell you you're full of it. You're full of shit. Go home, take your bud with you. But for my shop, how I operate, you can see the bud before I put it in the bag. I actually take it out of the jar and weigh it in front of you. I mean, it has some issues with that. However, I prefer doing that. I like to see people to see that they're not getting ripped off. But I've heard so many horror stories with the legal market that you hear people saying, "Well, I bought some stuff. First of all, it was immature. Second of all, it turned to dust when I ground it." That you're playing with people's money, hard-earned money, particularly now today's day and age. Every dime counts, and you're gonna be ripping people off like that.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point too about the nature of the customer experience, right? When I went into your shop when I was in Quebec, you had the magnifying lenses. Look at the bud up close. You let me smell it. You show me all the great deals. And when you walk into SDC, it feels cold. It feels like walking into an Apple store in a lot of ways, and the person across from you doesn't feel like an expert. Here you come out the back, just finished either doing pre-rolls or working with some shake or making concentrates and edibles, and the other way it just like you said, there's a spirit that seems to be missing, and part of this is really the plan itself. It has a spirit that people are able to share in and really bring them with unity, with love, and whether it's the capitalist approach to making profit, and again, when we say capitalism, that doesn't necessarily mean also what some people think it means, right? I mean, there is a level of government control and in market caps, government monopoly in certain areas. And that's a debate that is even being raised on in the States and in some places that are moving forward with legalization. It should only the government be the one selling it. And when you have a sole supplier and you have a monopoly in any way, it never works out for the consumer in the end. It works out for the person producing it. And I mean, the interesting thing is on the other side of that, the market gets flooded when they control it, when they prevent market caps. One of the things that I noticed, Clifton, was in your area on the native land there, just outside of Oka. There is just a inundation and saturation. I mean, you're literally competing with your next door neighbors, and then they have their neighbors and their neighbors and their neighbors. I mean, it is one of the most concentrated areas I have ever seen in all of my travels across the world of just cannabis distributing and selling establishments, in addition to tobacco and everything else. So,
and it's not a good thing. You know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I watched this degenerate, I should say, and I don't want to say it developed because it didn't develop. It degenerated into a situation because it became a free for all. Like there's a history in this community that goes deeper than just cannabis. There's a history of conflict in this community that's well over 200 years of conflict, colonial conflict that has not stopped. It's unabated, and it created a situation where it's a vacuum in this community that allowed for things to go unabated as it is. One of the things I wanted to do when I opened up is I wanted to have a baseline of rules in place, rules for the safety of the supply, first of all, for the insurance that people who are attached in the community could make a living from it. Because as it stands right now, I'm not doing well because of that reason, because of the oversaturation in the community. Like you literally can't drive a mile without running into 2 or 3 shops, and that's a symptom of poverty. You're talking of impoverishment.
Overload.
Well, you see it in the black community too, right? When people start getting, one person gets, the other person wants, and everybody needs to have.
And greed.
That's what we're dealing. Yeah, greed. But the poverty makes you like that sometimes because you're so hungry. You want.
Yeah, but in the same area. Think about it.
Yeah, it's because we're living on the reserves, right? We're restricted. We're squeezed into a small parcel of land, and we can't do these things outside of the reserve or the reservation, as you see in the States. So we're kind of stuck in that area to do it, where we exercise those rights. Because outside, we get our heads cracked in by the cops.
So with 200 years, you said, of conflict, colonial conflict, in regards to how the fur traders often
200 years of current conflict.
Of current conflict, yeah. Like I said, a lot of it had to do with the fur traders back again 200 years ago that were infringing on the sovereign lands and things of that sort. How did you get into the cannabis business? How did you, with all this pushback, how did you decide to take this path of great resistance, as it were?
Well, I'm a guerrilla farmer, right? I go way back. I've been doing this since 1990, just before 90. And a little bit here and there, small plants here and there. After 1990, 91, started growing a little bit more intensely. I used to have all kinds of different outdoor growing scenarios I used to do. I loved being a guerrilla farmer. It was one of my favorite things to do. Then after that, we started doing indoor growing. That lasted a couple of years, and then everything got busted. It got busted up by the RCMP. So some people who involved got hit pretty hard with that. Then our community kept getting hit hard. We have a long history of cannabis, involvement in cannabis, but in a negative end. And every time they would come into the community, be heavy-handed. And it would have never a light-handed approach, be military-style police interventions with armored personnel carriers and so on and so forth, helicopters, snipers, you name it, for a plant.
I mean, that's heavy, brother. I mean, especially considering for us, the stereotypes that they give us, you know, the Dudley Do-Right stereotype of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, right? Like they're almost caricatures us. And for you, it's real. Like they got SWAT teams and they got helicopters. It's no different than what a lot of communities here in the U.S. experience.
But you have to understand the history in this community. Yeah. If you do some research in just like the last 35, 40 years, we had a major conflict here in 1990 that involved the Canadian Army. And it was a siege that lasted 78 days where one police officer was killed. And they brought 5,000 soldiers to bear to quell what they called an insurrection. So just on the back of that, people here have been arming ourselves, been getting ready to defend what little we have. We've never stopped defending ourselves. Because we as Kanienkehaka people, we consider ourselves sovereign peoples who have the right to how we want to live and how we want to do things. But that becomes harder and harder when we're squeezed into a small area and we can't expand ourselves because of the colonial situation around us, right? Yeah. And when you try to make a living doing something, for example, going cannabis to make a living, you get hit on the head with that. But for me, I love cannabis. I love the cannabis industry. I love what I'm doing. But I want to do more than just that. I want to do hemp. Like I said, it's all fine and dandy. You smoke a little herb. You know what I want to get? I want to get the guy who wipes his ass every day. I want to make him toilet paper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Well,
yeah. I want to
go
do.
ahead and come up with that.
Yeah,
Because I'm ready to wipe my. You hear me?
everybody wipes their ass.
I'm ready to wipe my ass. You heard me?
Wipe your ass with hemp toilet paper.
Hey, what you doing? Getting a little buzz here and there.
Yeah, there you go. Buds for your butt.
Well, this whole crap that our dear leader, our president, who I don't support, has put these tariffs on Canada, and in regards to whether or not we're going to have wood wars from Canada, where all the lumber that we use for our feedstock, for our toilet paper here in the States, is going to dry up because Canada's not going to give it to us anymore.
It doesn't come from the U.S. That stock, and
Yeah.
very limited forests to manipulate, and even in Canada, that's a limited resource. Even though you look at the map and you see all these trees, that this is a pipe dream. This is old thinking. We have to start working with what we have left and start thinking about preserving what's left instead of cutting it down. And that's the problem we have in North America, is that we look through the eyes of commodity. Everything has a commodity and a price tag on it. That tree is not alive. It's a price tag. You hear them talking about forest fires in dollars. That's not how we should be talking about it. Maybe we put more of a value on it as a living thing, as a loved one, as a relative. Maybe we'd have a different perspective on the world.
Yeah, I mean, like a third of all the rainforests that exist in the world are those trees that we're discussing right now that they want to chop down for toilet paper.
Yeah.
Like what is that going to do to climate change? What is it like? So for you to say, I literally want to grow hemp so we can make toilet paper with it. It takes 20 years to grow a tree to harvest.
Yep.
Hemp you can harvest every single year. It's an annual.
Yep.
That is really being a good caretaker and steward of the environment. So here you are wanting to grow a plant that can help the environment, want to grow a plant that can help people with debilitating medical conditions, and subject to overregulation by the government, subject to SWAT raids. And in all of that, you're also trying to make do as a sovereign people who have been colonized for a few hundred years. It's just ludicrous. I mean, for most of us, right, we get the sanitized versions in our history books in the States, in the public school system. But I mean, and then even in the beginning when Gary was talking about, conflicts, and it in our minds, it tries to seem old. But what you just brought up, brother, in the 90s, you all were having to deal with condos and subdevelopments over your sovereign land. And even at that, over areas that were sacred, where people bury their loved ones who have passed on, all because people want to build golf courses and condos. And it is relevant because we were just talking about starting out with the Super Bowl today, and the fact that Bad Bunny is headlining it, and he has been unapologetic over speaking out against the colonization of his own island and his own people. Puerto Rico is the longest standing colony that's still active, essentially in the world. And it's still being exploited for its resources. And then you have Americans saying, deport this guy. I'm like, you do realize his passport's the same color as ours, right?
Well,
like
they,
that.
Right.
they want to deport indigenous people. They tried to deport some Navajo people and some Lakota people to where?
Where? That's what I'm saying.
It's like,
And let me ask. Okay, well, hold on, really quick. Yeah, this off subject, really quick. I know Kano, since you just brought this up, but is it true that Bad Bunny is going to put on a dress?
He's the art.
This is definitely unacceptable to me, and I'm going to start a petition for the NFL.
It is the art of distraction, my dear.
Yeah.
Look, I heard he was supposed to do it to give I guess he's, it's like some kind of contribute to the LGQ by LFMQ.
The artist scene in so many parts of Latin America is interconnected to the LGBTQ culture, because artistry is a form of revolution. And in a lot of machismo cultures throughout Latin America, to be LGBTQ in itself is tamped down upon, frowned upon, oppressed upon. And so, the symbols of rebellion is very interconnected. I mean, you got to think Bad Bunny.
That's everywhere, though.
So people are proud to be who they are, and I mean, you know,
but I don't think
again,
he's come out fully and say, "Hey, this is who I am." He's already got our polish. The women he took our polish. I don't see anything wrong.
He's kissed a man and a woman on stage before.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, if he wants to be unapologetically himself, I'm not going to knock the man for it. But some people are going to have a difficult time of how they want to explain that to other people in their family. You know, someone's like, "Why is he wearing a dress?"
And you need to roll up and give him some.
I want to put a cap on this because we're kind of getting off the beaten track. But Bowie did it on Saturday Night Live back in the 70s. He came out in a pencil dress. So it's just not new. But then again, at that time, everybody said, "Well, it's Bowie," you know.
Look, Prince did not get that shirt from the men's department. All right, but I didn't see people up in arms about that. Okay, so Katrina, we're gonna put that pin on that, and let's pivot back to our guest.
All right, that's all, y'all.
I just want to say one thing about this. I don't give a shit what they're doing as long as they're not doing it to kids.
Mm-hmm.
All I care about.
It is going to be towards the kids. That's the thing. Kids are going to be watching this.
But Katrina, the same people that are spitting that talking point are the ones that are touching the kids. They want you mad about Bad Bunny's dress and not the fact that the president's in the Epstein files 38,000 times.
You're right.
Right? Yeah. So let's call it for what it is, man. You know?
All right, I guess so.
So what's the last stuff we smoked here? Let's get a lineup.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
change the subject.
You know, that's the other thing too, right? We were talking about censorship too before we got on the show about social media and stuff. We literally cannot smoke in the rotation here because we're doing video because there's a different set of rules on Facebook Live. There's a different set of rules on X. There's a different set of rules on YouTube. Carlos, you brought that up to me. You said which platform you can blow smoke, but you can't get caught burning the cherry. Which platform was that one, brother?
I'm not even necessarily
sure. Just so you know, this was tobacco.
I think
wink.
It's just like nothing. Like they won't let you do anything on there. But I think like YouTube, you can't like light it, but you can blow it out.
It's fucking ridiculous.
So Facebook be doing that because I do it a lot on mine.
The Facebook AI, since they rolled it out at the beginning of the year, has banned our page 4 times. I've won every appeal, but the AI itself is not even. It's just like And Clifton and I were talking about this. You can get ads for actual buds, but they get mad at us for showing a veteran smoking a joint, saying click this link and send an email to your congressman.
Oh, even worse than that, I get ads for cocaine.
Yeah, you're in a different area.
Y'all on a whole nother different level. I ain't even really.
Big rocks of cocaine on the screen. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I can't tell you about bud. Or full on hardcore pornography ads.
Wow.
Hey, pornography built the internet. You know that.
Well, yeah. Pornhub's in Montreal, right? I know too well about pornography in Montreal. It's like the headquarters of it.
Hey, I see some comments coming in here. Marlon, you know, we can disagree on people's fashion choices and such. Again, you know, I don't. We're staying on the subject of course, cannabis here, and we were, you know, it tied into colonialism, right? People are going to do extreme stuff to draw attention to extreme issues that we've swept under the rug. You know, when again going back to Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico and stuff. People don't understand that even the Puerto Rican flag was something that could get you locked up for displaying, for having pride in your country. You know, again, the birth control that everybody uses so widely in the United States was tested, and tons of Puerto Rican women died during the 40s and 50s when they were still trying to develop it safely. So there is a lot of expression that people have. You know, whether you agree with a person in their form of how they express themselves, that's the beauty of our country, is that we value this free speech, even the speech we don't agree with. And we've gotten into echo chambers where when someone says a speech we don't like, we automatically look at that person as an adversary rather than an fellow American we have disagreements with. You know, Clifton, I want to pivot on that and go to you. You know, for you being a Kanienkehaka, and also because I didn't want to call Mohawk, but you know, because that's not y'all name. That's the name that these colonizers decided to subscribe to people. But point is that you know, you're in Canada. You know, you as Canadians, but y'all aren't necessarily Canadians. Y'all are your own people. You, like you said, you have your own land, and I mean, you know, how does that work? Tell us about the because people always think of, oh, America's the greatest country in the world because we have freedom of speech. But tell us more about the speech that you all have, that freedom. And then, like you just said, tie it into the freedom that we don't really have. We're not as free to speak as freely as we think, you know?
Okay,
You
so,
mentioned about cannabis restrictions and advertising.
well, you know, your notions of freedom and who you call yourselves as Americans, your system of governance, that all comes from my people. That comes from the Iroquois. That we're the ones that educated your people, your founding fathers, on what it was to be free. Your system of governance, your House and your Senate, and your Congress. You know, those things come from us. We used to have our houses of government separated amongst the 50 chiefs of the Confederacy, and we had to come to consensus. So the houses all had to agree with each other to pass laws, because the Americans had no inclination of that. Benjamin Franklin lived near our people, and he studied the Onondagas and how they did things, and he brought that to Philadelphia. There's a famous painting of the Declaration of Independence, and it's this drafting, and you see all the leaders of the so-called fathers of the nation standing there. What they don't tell you is about the Indians that were in the other room, and in consulting, they're being consulted and informing Benjamin Franklin and the other authors of that Constitution of what they should include in there and how they should proceed. So that comes from us. Because remember, Europeans, when they came here, they came from a place that didn't have freedom. They came from a place where your social mobility, if you were a guy that made tools and steel, you're a blacksmith, you're a smith. Even your family name reflects that. Your family makes roofs on houses, you're a thatcher. Your name is Thatcher. You know, the names reflected what they did. You couldn't go from that. But when they came here, the first colonists arrived here, they actually seen freedom. People going and doing what they wanted. I remember reading a part of the Jesuit relations, which I absolutely love. And it said in it, it's talking about my people, particularly Kanienkehaka people, and it's written in the negative. It says, well, these people, these Mohawks, they go here and there as if they're sovereigns within themselves. They have no gods, no masters. And I'm like, yes, you get it. But they did it in the negative because they're Mohawk. This is preposterous. Godless savages that go and do what they want. But that was freedom, and it had an influence on everybody. Because those French colonists that came here didn't bring their women with them. So their men would run off with the Indians. They run off into the woods and became bandits and outlaws. They called them the coureurs de bois. These are the first fur traders. And they were considered seditious. So then they collected all the poor women in France and sent them over here. And they called those the filles de roi. Oh, my logo just fell. You know, I'm blaspheming in Quebec. Like that. So,
good, brother.
but you know, it just there's a history that people don't understand about the origins of the societies we live in over here. People don't have a concept, and that's the thing with what's going on right now in the United States with education. There's been a dumbing down of the United States that's been going on, I'd say, for the last maybe 35 to 40 years. And I use TLC as a good example because I used to watch TLC back when they had those big satellite dishes, the big black ones. They had to move to the galaxies. So I used to watch that up here in Canada. I used to watch heart surgeries, hip replacements, brain surgery. Like, oh, geez, look at this. Look what they're doing over there. Now we got Honey Boo Boo and Say Yes to the Dress.
90-Day Fiance.
Yeah. So where have we gone? You know, we look at the education system. A real good example, watch The Wire. You want to understand America? Watch The Wire. That'll give you an example of what's going on. I know America too. I've lived and worked in the United States. I know it very well. I've seen it. And it's a sad state of affairs. Really beautiful people I've met, and I had really good friends I've broke bread with. It's a sad state we're in right now because of the education system, and we're afraid of education. And it's not only in the United States; it's here too in Canada. People are afraid of the truth, the realization of where we're from and what we're about. We always hear people saying, "Well, that's not American." Sure, it is. Been abducting kids since the beginning.
Yeah.
And then Canadians say the same thing. That's not Canadian. Well, what about residential schools? Tell me about that. Let's talk. Let's really sit down and talk then.
I saw a meme the other day that really stood out to me, and it was like, you don't have to compare ICE to the Gestapo. And then it said, because this is most of y'all grandparents, and it was a picture of a bunch of young women in the 1950s protesting segregation. And, you know, And then that's the thing that really stands out. Ruby Bridges is around my mom's age. So the same time my mom was going to school, this little girl was getting spit on. But even in our own history books, they show these photos in black and white to try and put in our minds they were a long time ago. But there are full color photos of Dr. Martin Luther King out there. There are full color photos of Malcolm X and Ruby Bridges and in the fight to they had full color cameras in the 50s and 60s, but they put them purposely in our books to make us feel like this was some long off period, you know?
But people are saying, oh, how shocked they are with what's turning out in the United States. Just remember, the United States created Nazism in a way.
Yeah.
You know, with the Jim Crow laws, which Adolf Hitler admired so greatly, with the colonization of indigenous people, which again in Mein Kampf, Hitler goes on and on about how the European was able to dispossess indigenous person of their land. You know, they went on and they had all kinds of eugenic laws also that they created in the turn of the century throughout the 1920s, basing things on eugenics. And he copied that. They copied it. And
Yeah.
then, you know, that they had a Nazi party in the United States. They had a major Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden in 1938.
Yes. And I don't recall those tens of thousands of Nazis that showed up ever getting arrested, right?
Yeah.
I don't recall mass arrests of Nazis. I don't recall Nazis being put into concentration camps like Japanese Americans were. You know, it's just shocking to me in the grand scheme of things how our own history. I mean, even the scare behind the Red Scare and the communism of the Cold War, and we go back and find out, yeah, the CIA literally utilized ex-Nazis to fight the Soviets, and to come to find out the Soviet economy was not this scary thing, you know, that they literally were using their credit card to fund their space race and their weapons race. The whole scare of the 60s and 70s, 80s was all a Fugazi, you know, for the military industrial complex and members of Congress to make boatloads of cash. And I mean, the fact that the CIA had an airline that was bringing in drugs to the Americas, bringing in massive amounts of cocaine. I mean, you know, that the Lucky Luciano was a CIA asset. These are all things that you're not going to get in your 8th grade history book. These are things that you're probably not even going to get taught in most college courses, but they are in fact things that happen. They are true. And that money in politics to this day remains the most dangerous thing that we have. And to speak out against these systems or to be a disruptor of the money in the system labels one an outlaw. And then that's where, you know, again, the cannabis industry really intersects into all this, because for so long people have been outlaws. And as this becomes legal and you have this existing system, everybody wants to get their hands on it and get their cut. I mean, here we are. We got a governor in Florida who's really mad about hemp products. He's really mad about cannabis. He says he doesn't like the smell, but he was fine when he first got elected, and he was getting campaign checks, and they were putting money into his inaugurations, you know?
Yeah, that was our Camelot for about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
When he
Right.
basically took the money and said, okay, you can have whole flower. Like,
Yeah.
wow, you can actually give us something which is actually our right. It was given to us by God. That's so wonderful of you.
Yeah, when the people first voted to legalize cannabis in the state of Florida, the legislature said no ingestible, combustible forms. You can only, you know, basically you can stick it up your ass as a suppository, but they won't let us smoke it. And I mean, that's just the most affront to democracy that we can see. You know, people were expecting when they legalize this, I want to be able to grow my own. I want to be able to heal myself. I want to be able to utilize this plant that nature's given us to make clothes, to make building products, to be sustainable. And that's not what we got. We got market caps. We got bud that is corporate, that's sprayed with pesticides and herbicides that are not good if you're a cancer patient needing this to heal. I mean, so Clifton, I wanted to pivot back to you, brother. Growing clean cannabis, you know, for all the folks out there who are currently subject to the corporate stuff, growing small batch, you know, is it that hard? You know, and you mentioned the hurdles of having to compete. So share with us a little bit about your own work ethic, your own philosophy of how you approach cannabis in your space at the Green Devil.
Just as a cultivation nerd, I'd be interested in knowing how much you do outdoors versus indoors, especially in that climate.
Well, you know, I'm a strong believer in smaller is better. I like doing small batches. I haven't grown this year because just the market is not as it was. so I haven't done it. But I usually like doing living soil organic outside. Sometimes indoors do cocoa coir, hydro, indoor growing like that. When I first started, it was basically no knowledge on how to grow, so it was just uh, sheep manure and miracle grow. That's how we used to do it back in the day. And then as we had educated ourselves, understanding how to make teas and so on, and organizing around that principle. But when you're doing guerrilla farming, you have to be able to gear yourself into what you can bring with you. So you're limited in what you can do sometimes. Whereas now, where I go openly, I just do living soil organic outdoor. Because for my thing is doing extracts. I like doing hashishes, and I like doing live rosins, live hashes, and so on. So I like doing the fresh frozen stuff. So I prefer the outdoors. I find the outdoor resins to be a little better. The trichlome's a little more hardy on the sun grown stuff than they did from the indoor. Not to say the indoor doesn't produce beautiful stuff. I find it better for the flower itself than they do for the extraction purposes. And then it all depends on the strain again. Like everything goes on to that. I enjoy doing small batches, including with our edibles and all the other stuff. Do small batches, small runs of things. That's what it keeps me small. Sometimes it keeps me down the loop a bit because I'm not as quick as others to make products, but I'm satisfied knowing that I'm doing a better product because I'm taking my time to do it.
How do you keep your mother plants warm during the winter?
Right now, I don't have any mothers. I usually just keep them in a grow room. I usually keep my mother room with LED lights, with the air circulating and just watering them, keeping them maintained for the winter. That's what I usually do. I haven't started anything. I usually start. I like doing my outdoor plants, starting them from seed.
I thought it was winter year round up there.
No, it's not. It's pretty hot up here.
I'm about to ask, like, hey, that's what he took the words right out of my mouth, and I'm like listening, like, well, how do you?
We sometimes get snow in June, early June, late May. It has happened.
Yeah, so thank you. I would never come up there around my birthday time. Okay.
No,
it's when I was up there in November, we got the first snows, and that was definitely a shock to me of how cold it gets, the snow it is, and I see Clifton in t-shirt and jeans. He's like, "Oh man, it's not even cold yet," and I'm like, "Whoa! I just shoveled the driveway this morning."
No, not yet. We kind of tend to like the cold. I got used to it, but as I'm getting older, I'm finding myself getting a little more sensitive. After doing a couple of vacations in the south during the winter, my tolerance to the cold is.
Yeah. Well, you make some great edibles. I gotta say, those little bonbons that look similar to Hershey Kisses are amazing, especially the ones with the caramel in the middle. And they were so interesting to me because they're delicious going down, and after one, it'll lock you into the couch. But if you take two, your day is over. Once it kicks in, and that was just something that was like, yes, it was a great quality product for an amazing price. And just the fact that you make those, I would say to anybody, if you're ever in Canada, take the time to go to Quebec, go see Clifton at the Green Devil. It is definitely, and the interesting thing is that, there's tons of options, right? The area on the indigenous land is overloaded with options, but at the Green Devil, Clifton is going to give you that personal touch. He's going to give you quality products, and you really do feel like you made a friend when you walk in there. So I just want to say, Clifton, you're an amazing businessman in the sense of how you run your business, how you treat the customers. It reminded me a lot of like when I go into Carlos's shop at Chillum. It's like you feel like family there, and I think that's an important aspect that was so lost on so many things. Because I went to the High Times dispensary down the street, towards the end of my trip just to check it out, and it hit me with a lot like, oh my God, this place looks like a flea market of just weed products. But it was very cold, the different vendors. I mean, I stood at one place trying to get edibles for like 20 minutes for someone come and paid attention to me. And you give everyone that personal touch when they're in there. You make them feel warm, that when they leave, they feel like they got a great deal on everything, and you treat people well. So again, Green Devil Cannabis, Le Diable Vert, if folks are ever in Quebec, take the time to go.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I wanted to pivot a little bit. We had been talking about cannabis. We're talking about the Kanienkehaka people and some of the struggles that y'all have been through in recent times, and just the fact that so many people don't understand the history of this country. It's glossed over so much of the history of the Americas, of the United States and Canada, and the people who were here before that. You know, and right now it's really poignant because we have this discussion around immigration in this nation, and the fact that so many refugees have come into our country over the past couple decades because of wars that we've been waging across the planet. And then as more people immigrate for economic opportunities, because again, we've dominated their economies and tried to take every last dollar and treat foreign countries in the Western Hemisphere as de facto colonies. People are mad that people are now coming here trying to make money. You know, your own people, right? I looked at the original lands, at least according to the Western history books of where y'all used to be. But even then, where you're at now wasn't your original spot, correct? Right? Like y'all used to have other lands, and they kind of pushed y'all to where you're at. Like help me out with your history of like how y'all got to the point of having. Like, how'd you go from having all this land in New York, Connecticut area, Vermont, to being, in this little strip that we see that's currently inundated with cannabis, right? Help to educate us on that.
For the Kanienkehaka people, our lands, they go from Albany, New York, all the way past Montreal. And the part that's in Canada, northern in part of Canada, becomes a contentious issue sometimes with Quebec politics and the illusions that they have of their history. They tried to invent a people that disappeared called the St. Lawrence Iroquois. Really convenient, disappeared people. You do that when you steal shit, right? Make up fictitious stories to cover your ass. But anyways, that being said, one of the reasons why we're here in the majority and we're no longer as populated in this New York State was due to the American Revolutionary War, and in particular the Sullivan Campaign. It was a genocidal campaign that swept through the Iroquois Confederacy and burnt us out and forced us to seek refuge with the British in the north. And we have a name. We have a name for George Washington, and every president holds the same name, and that's Kanienkehaka, Village Destroyer. So we call the American presidents that, Village Destroyer. That's his title. So every president up to the current one is called the Village Destroyer in my language.
Can you say that in Spanish again?
It's not in Spanish. It's Kanienkehaka.
Okay, well, what language is that?
Kanienkehaka, Mohawk.
Oh, Mohawk.
That's the language of this land. One of more than 500 languages spoken in North.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Well, that's what a lot of people don't understand the history in the United States.
Right.
That's the problem we're having right now. We're having a problem where all those elements are coming back on them.
And even the history of the code talkers is being swept under the rug right now.
Well, yeah, they don't want to talk about that. It's a very much a white supremacist project happening right now. We want to whitewash everything, including the foundation of the country. We don't want to talk about genocide. We want to maintain the mythology.
We ain't like we used to be back in the days. We're not easily influenced.
No, well, we're uneducated. We'd figured that we'd have
very uneducated.
We have our phones, right, and we have unlimited access to knowledge. Yet we've become dumber.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Why? It's unfortunate.
You can ask Google.
You know what was really scary? I hadn't watched it when it first came out, but I watched it most recently. Was Idiocracy. Dude, it wasn't a documentary and it wasn't a manual. It was a warning. Like 1984, it was a warning, not a manual. It's like, man, where are we? What are we doing?
Where did you find that?
Idiocracy. I watched it on the streaming service. But it's like, wow. Well, what's important right now? Like in Idiocracy, they point out how sexual you are and how stupid you are is more important than anything else. And this is what we're dealing with in the world, not just the United States, but in the world.
Katrina, it's the same guy who made Beavis and Butthead. He made the film in 2005, and it's an interesting parallels to modern era where politics is really dumbed down, where the president is essentially a celebrity,
he's a porn star,
ex-porn star, UFC fighter who the people love. The people spend their time watching reality TV and big arena concerts and monster truck rallies. I mean, and everything's got electrolytes in it.
Really? So it's like, is this it right here?
Well,
Idiocracy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's not forget where we are right now. We have a president who, again, wants to get rid of the whole concept of Indigenous Peoples Day and bring back the glory that is Cristobal Colon,
Yeah.
The guy who killed more nations than he started.
So Christopher Columbus, I would implore everybody listening and everybody in the panel to read one book in particular by Bartolome de las Casas called "The Brief Destruction of the Indies." The description of the brief description of the destruction of the Indies. That's a mouthful. Sorry about that. But read that book. Read it. It describes what Christopher Columbus and his men did on the island of Hispaniola, which is Dominican Republic and Haiti, and how they wiped out millions of people. You know, the amount of people that were wiped out just out of the Bahamas, it left those islands barren for almost 60 years. That's how many people were murdered on those islands. Either put into slavery.
I like books. What's the name of the book?
A Brief Description of the Destruction of the Indies.
You know, it's interesting. The last Taino chief of Cuba, Atuey, said, you know, he asked, they told him, repent so your soul go to heaven. And he tells the priest, you know, are there Spaniards in heaven? And he goes, yeah. He said, well, then send me to hell.
Yeah, yeah. Or they gave them hell. In Bartolome de las Casas descriptions, he talks about how they had stables of young girls for every Spaniard, and that when they were done with them, we'd feed them to the dogs. I mean, true horror. Read that book.
Well, what? That's how we was living all because we had that stuff. That's how we was handled.
That's Columbus, right? Cristobal Colon, like you said, and that's the base of the word colonization. Is his last name Colon? Colonization.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, you know,
it's called A Short Account of the Destruction of the Indies. It's Bartholomew de las Casas.
The short what, Carlos?
A Short Account of the Destruction of the Indies.
Yeah,
short account. Okay.
Everybody's getting an education today. That's
here's the piece of irony. The indigenous folks did leave Columbus with a parting gift. They told the Europeans coming there, saying, take this tobacco, which we use strictly for ceremonial purposes. Smoke it as much as you want. Plant it as much as you want, knowing the fact that the tobacco leaves themselves dries out the land and kills the people. They said, it's our gift to you for coming to visit us. It's our parting gift.
Well, that leads me to a joke. My cousin had a cigarette factory, and at the time, Canada had a Health Canada requirement on the packaging to put warnings. And one of the warnings said that, do you know that each year cigarettes kills the equivalent of 10,000 people? That's equivalent to a small city. And my cousin said, see, one little city at a time.
It's not funny, but I could only imagine if he had his hands like that, that would have really took me the fuck out. Okay.
Did any of you guys see the indigenous group that like crashed the MAPS conference?
No.
Where is that at?
Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, MAPS.
Yeah. I saw that, because it was a viral like YouTube memo.
They had like 3 main points, and they were asking to get more indigenous influence on the study of psychedelics. Their point was we saw colonizers screw up tobacco, we saw colonizers screw up opium, we saw colonizers screw up cannabis. Let's make sure that doesn't happen with psychedelics and the indigenous uses of psychedelics.
There is a right and a wrong way to do peyote.
And if you think about it, I mean, cocaine wasn't,
cocaine was a medicine.
People are laughing at me in the background, but cocaine was a medicine. Opium was a medicine. Tobacco was a medicine, and
cocaine wasn't cocaine until it became cocaine by a German chemist.
It's called sugar water in the hospital.
It was coca, right? It was used as an anesthetic and a medicine.
And now you go to South America, you see these indigenous movements for the medicinal use of coca. To legalize due to that. There's something that happens, something that gets screwed up, something that gets perverted. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the general influence that Western culture has. Maybe it's capitalism. Maybe it's I don't know what it is. But we pervert these things when we adopt them, and we bring them to the market, and we try to pull them out. Is there Clifton? Is there any Is there any hope that we can get cannabis back to its normal state? I was watching a video about this guy in Humboldt County that was like, I don't even clone my plants. You know, I don't even I don't like to have like an incestuous relationship with my plants. You know, I grow all my plants from seed.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how deep we are in it, but
I think we
how screwed up is cannabis, and can we get it back?
I think it's a fight, a very big fight. But as people who just considering the ages that we're sitting here on the screen, we come from the old school. It's us that has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to educate the young ones to maintain that spirit that the guerrilla farmers had, that those people who were dwelling in the darkness before were doing. And I'm not necessarily a criminal element. I don't even want to think about these people. They mess up enough things. That's the problem right there. But to get back to those people who are growing it, the people who developed it to where it is, we got to take that back. We got to keep doing. Because I'm unlicensed. I refuse to have a license. I will not have a license. In Canada, you're not allowed to sell edibles that are higher than 10 milligrams. I sell 1,000 milligram edibles in my shop because I firmly believe it's up to you and me what we put in our bodies and how we take care of ourselves.
There you go. Hello, somebody.
And the cannabis, and I feel cannabis to me, at the end of the day, cannabis is freedom. Because everything I own, everything you see in the wall behind me, everything on my clothes, on my body, has all been paid for and bought with cannabis. The health that I have, the mental health that I enjoy today is because of cannabis. It saved me from a life of addiction, from hard drugs. And I'm proud of that. And it's something that I'll never, ever turn my back on. And that's why we got to keep pushing. We got to keep fighting for it. If it saved your life the way it saved mine, then fight for it.
Brother, I don't think there are any better words to finish on. So why don't you have folks just tell them where they can follow you, tell them a little bit about where they can find your establishment and and how they can get in touch.
Well, listen, you can hit me up on Facebook at the Green Devil Weed Cannabis Diable Vert. That's usually where I am. I don't have a website right now. Like I said, I concentrate on doing my products and doing digital stuff. So I keep it low key. You can contact me, inbox me, and we do mail order in Canada only. Limited, like I said, I'm not a big shop. I don't operate big, but if you're in the community in the Montreal area, come see us in Kanehsatake. Come check out the spectacle, as I call it. But at the same time, if you want to stop in. I'd be more than happy to have you.
Can't order anything online?
No, unfortunately,
I know. I know. I'm already knowing. That's all. Just start.
Well, I'm going to Detroit this summer, and I told I'm going to Detroit this summer. I told the wife that we would spend the $14 to go across the bridge and head up towards Rome so we can get to the summer festival over there, because that's something she hadn't seen since her little kid or her grandfather's house. So we might just make a left-hand turn and go for about an hour and a half and check you out.
Yeah, check it out.
Gary, it is worth the drive. Trust me. That 90 minutes will be worth it on the way back. You're going to be so stoned.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, with all that, team, I think it's time for the normal news. Carlos? So, most important news story that is coming out of Florida right now. It's relevant to everyone. The DeSantis administration says marijuana legalization will not appear on November's ballot, but the petitioners are saying otherwise. Election officials and the state attorney general announced this week that petitioners behind the proposed ballot initiative legalizing adult use retail marijuana sales had failed to gather the requisite number of signatures to qualify for it for the November ballot. But representatives with the Smart and Safe Florida campaign are challenging the state count and have called the administration's declaration premature. According to the campaign spokespeople, representatives from Smart and Safe Florida have submitted over 1.4 million signatures from Florida voters, far more than the 880,062 signatures necessary to qualify. To date, however, and that was earlier this week, election officials have verified fewer than 784,000 total signatures. Specifically, the campaign is challenging the state's dismissal of at least 98,000 signatures, which, if determined valid, would be sufficient to qualify for this year's ballot. Petitioners qualified a similar measure in 2024, and that proposal got 56% of the vote, which is just shy of the 60% threshold that's required to pass a constitutional amendment in Florida. Understand that Florida is the only state in the United States of America that requires citizen-initiated ballot measures get more than a simple majority. The DeSantis administration has vigorously opposed both efforts. In May, Governor DeSantis signed legislation that made it harder for parties to qualify for measures for the electoral ballot. And last month, state election officials audited the work of several counties, which they alleged had not properly verified the voter signatures. Most recently, the state launched a criminal probe to investigate the actions of various petitioners involved in the Smart and Safer Florida campaign. Separately, the Attorney General's office had previously challenged the wording of the proposed measure in court, calling it unconstitutional. And historically, Florida has been among the states with the highest number of annual marijuana-related arrests. Under state law in Florida, possession of 20 grams or less is a criminal misdemeanor and punishable up to 1 year in jail and $1,000 fine. Having more than 20 grams is a felony amount in Florida, which comes with a 5-year prison sentence. There is so much to be said about the war on drugs, especially how cannabis users are treated, and the fact that Florida is ground zero for it. When we talk about the new Jim Crow and how drug laws are applied in a draconian manner, we have zero tolerance counties in the state of Florida where even having a roach in your car is enough to send you straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You will go straight to jail. And if you have a little less than an ounce, you will go straight to jail. Hell, I was arrested with less than an ounce, with less than the amount necessary to get a felony, and they still rang it up as a felony. So they will be funny with the paperwork. They will civil forfeit your car. They will take your phone, your laptop, anything electronic on you. All of this because we have a criminal justice system with a profit incentive behind it, with private prisons who are some of the largest donors to the governor and to the Florida legislature. And they want to continue to criminalize this. And then you have a corporate cannabis industry that isn't giving to the governor what he wants is his fair cut when it comes to these campaign donations. And here we are. And this is the whole point of why we have the news of the day. And then you see that same industry betting millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to get this on the ballot, and they can't even get that right. In the grand scheme of things, you have to think we want to stop these arrests. We want to see justice for cannabis users. And at the same time, we want good quality, proper cannabis. And sometimes those things are at cross purposes. And here we are. Advocates work tirelessly to try and legalize it, to try and end arrests. Corporate interests are working tirelessly to corner the market, and prohibitionist politicians, the private prisons, the rehab industrial complex, and all of their allies with the money in politics are doing what they can to keep it illegal. You have three different forces competing against each other for what's right and what's justice in this country and in this state. And that's where we are in the current moment. And that's where our organization, Suncoast Normal, comes in at, to give activists and people who want to see justice, who want quality control, who want to put an end on the civil rights attacks against cannabis users, a home and a place where you can organize, where you can meet like-minded folks. And we do our best to continue to bring you education and advocacy each and every Sunday here in the rotation, as well as across our media platforms. So visit our website, suncoastnormal.org, get on our email list. Get our weekly newsletters. Go on to Facebook and X and social media. Share, like, subscribe, comment. You may not like what we have to say sometimes. That's okay too. We fine with the back and forth. We love to answer people in the comment section. Not everybody does, but we talk shit. You talk shit to us, we talk shit right back. That being said, we're going to continue to try and bring you some amazing guests each and every week. So we want you to, of course, support what we're doing. We want your time, your treasure, your talent. So become a member or make a donation. And if you have the opportunity to get involved, we have some amazing events that you can participate in. If you want to donate more of your time, feel free to become an active volunteer. We have some amazing events coming up. We actually have one tonight. We have the Smoke, the Rainbow photo shoot going down at Chillum St. Pete. Carlos, why don't you tell folks a little bit more about the photo shoot that you've organized for a good cause?
Well, Smoke the Rainbow photo shoot was something that I've been trying to do for quite some time. I originally wanted to do this maybe like 8 years ago, something like that. So I have some photo content from a long time ago. Here's a friend of mine, Amanda, posing for one of the first Smoke the Rainbow photos. It's going to be over at Chillum St. Pete at 1916 Central Ave in St. Petersburg, Florida. It starts at 7 p.m. tonight. And yeah, it's basically just getting models together to take beautiful pictures of smoking. The idea is that smoking is beautiful, and we should celebrate that. So we're putting together this calendar. We have an overwhelming amount of models signed up. As of right now, we have 29 models RSVP'd. We have 2 other photographers, some hair and makeup people are going to be there. It's a free photo shoot, so if models want to come by and get their pictures done, we will provide them with raw photo content and edited pictures. And we're going to try to put together a calendar for you guys. At the very least, it's going to be a digital calendar. Maybe we can get a sponsorship for a print calendar at one point. But yeah, the photo shoot's going to be a good time, and smoking's beautiful.
All right, I dig it. I mean, I remember
Got that tab out.
the calendar idea is literally 8 years in the making. I know this because one of the first fights I ever had with my wife was a prospective model wanting to get in the calendar and sending me a little bit non-work safe appropriate photos.
Yeah, you can hear her in the background.
Yeah, exactly. This still is contentious to being the first fight. So
Oh snap! You better be careful, my boy.
Exactly. Yeah. But we also have some other great events coming up, and some of those amazing models are featured on our flyers. If you want to get featured on a future Suncoast Normal flyer, of course, show up to the photo shoot today. We have the best blunt of the Bay 5 coming, a rolling and slabbing competition. This is our big 420 event going down on Saturday, April 18th at Chillum in St. Petersburg, 1916 Central Avenue. This year's competition, of course, is not just a rolling competition. We also have added a smoking competition element, the official Chillum Dabathon, where essentially Carlos is going to give you dabs until you pass the fuck out, and the last person standing will be the winner. So Gary's sitting there like, I don't know if I want to enter or not. He shook his head like, it sounds like a good idea at first, but then once you're strapped in for that roller coaster, you got to ride it all the way out.
Listen, one of my favorite things to do is to dab the fuck out of people, you know, especially for the first time. I mean, I don't know. There's something about it, getting somebody high as fuck like that. I just really enjoy it. Some people may even call me cruel for enjoying it so much.
Yeah,
but I don't give a shit. And you know, at Chillum, we've been doing $5 dabs since the inception of our dispensary. So we've been doing $5 dabs off the side of 7th Avenue in Ybor City for 8 years now. We are experts. The people I employ are experts at giving out dabs.
All you're gonna do is smile. You're gonna be so happy when you walk out.
If you think you can fucking hang, if you think you can be the last person standing, right? I'm gonna make sure that you're fucking not.
I share your aesthetics, Carlos. Nothing I love more than getting somebody ripped.
There's
somebody shrink into their stone, you know. Just watching them develop into that. Beautiful.
Carlos, show that event guide one more time. I think folks need to see some of the amazing events again for the rolling competition. There you see the best blunt in the 3 champ. Landra actually holding up the championship belt. But, you know, you're going to have 3 rounds to showcase your skills, papers, blunt wraps, and then, of course, the freestyle round where you can get your shit off and show your creativity. In addition, the smoke-a-thon, the dabathon is open to all contestants and judges. So if you're a judge, you'll have the opportunity, of course, to enter into the smoking competition this year. Early bird tickets are available right now on our website, so get them before prices go up. We got some amazing judge tickets to lock in. Judge tickets are limited, so those are going to go first. Locking your judge tickets now. If you want to enter into the contest, of course, sign up. And everyone who does sign up for either the contest or judge does get a 1-year membership to Suncoast Normal. And then, of course, we have our general admission tickets. If you just want to spectate, come on the sidelines. So visit our website, suncoastnormal.org. There's a link there right on the homepage. You can get your tickets or go to our event section and sign up and get tickets. So I'm pretty excited for it.
Now,
And
I must say, I'm a little upset that Katrina is not rolling anymore because, she famously in the freestyle did a blunt in the profile of Richard Nixon, which I thought was amazing.
Damn.
I would have loved to have smoked Nixon any day.
Okay, Gary. I rolled that one blunt. Gary was like, okay, then, yeah, I pearled it, but I'm on a judge, so y'all come out. We need more judges and all that good stuff. Y'all come on.
Now, I do want to mention also next week we have a candidate for Congress going up against Anna Paulina Luna, one of our favorite lunatics coming here from Florida. And his name is Brant Robinson, and we're looking forward to go ahead and talking to him and see how he's going to change Congress, because God knows they need an entire Congress change right here in Florida. Just as much as possibly in Canada, they need a few parliament changes on occasion.
Yeah, we need to pass the Marijuana Opportunity and Reinvestment Act through Congress. We need to take it off the schedule. We need to let the states regulate how the commerce is done. And of course, we need to not make sure that it gets taxed into oblivion. These new taxes that we're seeing all across America is pretty wild. And again, we need to also make sure that consumer protections are put in place. Gary, you were in Tallahassee earlier last month. And I mean, we're not optimistic on what we're seeing out of Tallahassee when it comes to consumer protections, whether it be worker protections around cannabis or protecting your parental rights as a cannabis user. But what we have seen progress on is there is a bill that has made it through 2 committees now that will allow for veterans to get discounted medical marijuana cards and extend the amount of time between renewals that a medical marijuana patient needs in the state of Florida. And that seems to be the only bill that the Florida Republicans who run the Florida legislature have an appetite for moving this year. They are also moving a ban on all public smoking of cannabis. So unlike Canada, which we were just talking, if you can smoke cigarettes, you can smoke the cannabis at, much in the same way we see in New York State, that is not going to go down in Florida. They're not going to allow you to smoke cannabis on beaches, on sidewalks, not even in the patio. And then with the restriction on hemp products, essentially that's going to apply too. So, right now in Ybor, one of my favorite things to do is go to like Gaspar's Grotto or go to the patio there by Carmine's and fire up one of Carlos's hemp joints. And they're like, you can't smoke this. And I'm like, this is legal. I bought it down the street from Chillum. Look at the packaging. There's nothing they can do about it. They get really mad. So that public smoking ban is going to put a stop to that too. So it's definitely where we are legislatively. Gary, what are your thoughts, man? Are we going to see the governor even bother to give veterans a discounted card, or are we going to see possibly a veto on that?
I'm intending to see a veto on that when it finally gets through. There was a minor victory in that the open container law that's moving through right now actually dropped the amendment, dropped the clause that said that smell was for probable cause, which we actually fought and won in the courts here to make certain that the scent of cannabis was not probable cause to be able to search your car and all that kind of stuff. That bill would have put it back in. They took it out before it went to the next committee. So we are making slight inroads, but the fact is their focus, as usual, is not on point. You're talking about consumer protections, but it's more like consumer restrictions. It's not the same thing, and it's not doing what it's supposed to do. We still don't have the full truth and labeling rule. We still don't have it where they can't take your kids away just for having a medical card. They still don't have it where you can be fired for using cannabis because of the fact it makes you a better employee because it makes you healthy. You can't home grow in any way, shape, or form here in Florida. Unless, of course, you have medical necessity, which is a defensive move and not an offensive one. You have to actually go to court and get that. And you actually had to have been arrested first in order to have that.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And that's all we have. So Canada's got a lot of things up on us, which we're grateful for. I feel your struggles. I think it's fantastic, sir, that you continue to struggle along those lines to go for your own personal freedoms. I know that indigenous folks of all lands always embraced herbal medications, and yet the colonizers who came there and tried to take it away from them and pervert those things that they had created. Even back in Mexico, when the conquistadors brought over cañaba, and the medicine men saw that and they said, "Wait a minute, you're throwing out the top part. That's where all the medicine is." and they started using it as medicine then, which these mestizos picked up and which were later on arrested for using by the governments that came there. That was Mexico. I'm not too uncertain, but did that same thing happen in Canada? I apologize for asking you one more question.
No problem. I don't have no problem with that at all. But for traditional people, a lot of indigenous people very hesitant when it came to cannabis. It's a battle for acceptance, even amongst indigenous people, and particularly in some of the more traditional communities, because there's a stigma attached to it, and there's a stigma. And there's a cultural issue with substance use, and that leads into the oppression and all the issues that we've had in the past with substances. So it's not always an easy thing, and it's not an easy thing, period, to ask traditional people or other people in the community to accept cannabis as a medicine. It's something I've been advocating for the longest time to change that outlook on it and change how it's being perceived and to use it as a medicine. But it is a difficult sell. Um, I think that we have to keep working to demystify it, and that's the problem that we've been incurring right now. Is that a lot of people have been taking it and simply emphasizing the party aspect of it instead of the true medicinal side. That's where we come to that point that we've come full circle. We've gone from medicinal to recreational. Now we got to go back to medicinal again to complete that loop.
Thank you so much, sir. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, Clifton, man, we appreciate you joining us today, and again, folks, catch us in the rotation each and every Sunday, 11 a.m. Go back and watch our past episodes as well. Last week, we had on the editor-in-chief of High Times, Javier Hase, and really excited to keep bringing you amazing guests each and every week. We have some great guests lined up over the next month, some movers and shakers on the political scene, candidates for office, and of course, we're going to continue to bring you folks who are actually in the industry making moves, whether they be business owners, doctors, patients, celebrities. We want to make sure that folks have the latest in cannabis news and entertainment here in the rotation each and every week. And with that, Carlos, you got the last word.
Smoke weed every day. Hold on.
I love you to my heart and soul. I love you to my heart
All right. My kids are here to clean up my garage.
All right, brother. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, I got my gram of Gary Satan.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
So, all right, man. I'll catch up with you. Have a good
All
one.
right.
I got a notification from Facebook. It was like rainbow fucking photo shoot, bitch. You remember that? I was like, I remember that. I remember you mentioning you needed to move it. I was like, but then nobody said. I was like, so this could be a problem. Maybe it's early in the day. Maybe it's fine. So it's gonna be at the same shop. said they came down here. My dad was texting me they were in downtown St. Louis and they were in a Head Start.